Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Price Adjustments, January 2024. This is our latest in our series of educational webinars from Anchor Software. My name is Cindy Prado. I'm a technical support specialist here at Anchor Software, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Our webinar today is presented by Fiona Machado with the United States Postal Service. A few notes before we begin. When you're logged into the webinar, you're automatically placed on mute mode. Simply, that helps cut down on the background noise. Any questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar. So if you have a question during the presentation, please type in your question into the Q&A portion of the webinar console, and we'll answer and try to answer those at the conclusion of the presentation. One last note, this webinar is being recorded and it'll be made available for viewing or reviewing on our website in the coming days. Now, let's go ahead and begin. Fiona Machado is Acting Director of Mailing and Services and Pricing. I had a previous position as Director of Revenue and Volume Reporting. She's responsible for producing the RPW report. Other positions that she holds include Acting Manager, Air Network Modeling Manager, Financial Programs, Compliance, and Mathematical Statistician. She has an MBA and undergraduate degree in Economics and Statistics from the University of Maryland. Here is where I am going to tell you a little bit about Anchor before we begin through the process. Anchor Software was founded in 1998. We have over 1,500 products installed and over 65 software products. We provide software solutions for data quality, postal compliance, mail processing, and document design. We actively engage in shaping our industry through participation in leadership such as DTAC, MSMA, AMI, and other numerous PCCs. We provide 24/7 technical support. So now that I have introduced Fiona and I've gone over Anchor, Fiona, please take it away and tell us about the price adjustments in January of 2024.
Thanks, Cindy. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Thank you again for inviting me to come speak today. I'm super excited to talk a little bit about the DFA plan and the price change for January 2024. Like Cindy mentioned, my name is Fiona Machado. I'm the Acting Director of Mailing and Services Pricing. For those of you familiar with Sammy Raymond, who is the current manager of pricing, he's still with the Postal Service, and he's just over doing a temporary assignment in our strategy department. And so I'm here to run a few price cases while he completes that assignment. I'm also happy to present to an organization that's local in Rockville, Maryland. I grew up in Gaithersburg, Maryland, went to University of Maryland, but I must say that I am now living in Virginia. But I'm happy to be here today. So to dive right in, the way this presentation is structured, we have a few slides about the Delivering for America plan and how it relates to pricing. And then we jump into some context and history for how we've priced market dominant products historically. And then we'll cover the details of the January 2024 price case. And so this first slide it's a little old. I think it was prepared on the first year anniversary of the Delivering for America plan. And the reason why I like this slide so much is because it puts the financial improvement plan into large buckets, 4 pillars associated with the plan. And if you look at the bucket all the way to the right-hand side, the $24 billion, that's directly tied to the revenue improvement associated with price changes. And so how we change our prices is a very powerful lever that's pulled in order to generate additional revenue for the Postal Service and make sure that we're set for long-term financial stability. So here's the 2-year progress report associated with the plan. Some things to call out are the 2 successful peak seasons, and then one is just right around the corner for 2023. The COVID test kit program, delivering all of the COVID test kits to every American household for free to customers. We also had conversion of pre-career employees to career status, as well as supporting our frontline supervisors by reducing the vacancy rate from 15 to 8%. Getting into some of the specifics around the projected losses associated with the plan. So the big red dot in the center shows that when we originally started this, we projected $160 billion in losses over the next 10 years. And 2 years into the plan, we're down to a projected $70 billion projected loss. So obviously $70 billion is still a lot of money, and still something that we want to work towards as we complete the rest of the Delivering for America plan. One key part of this improvement in the projected losses is associated with the legislative action associated with the Reform Act, which did impact our mandates associated with pre-funding, retirement benefits, and so that was a big help there. However, inflation obviously has been a huge factor, not just for the Postal Service, but any organization. And we did experience an additional $3 billion in costs that we didn't forecast due to inflation. Looking at our service performance, we've seen improvements across the board, especially for our primary mail products such as first class mail, marketing mail, and periodicals, all of which saw improvement over the comparison period in FY21. And then this slide just covers some of the technology side of the work that's being done to improve both our internal technology, but also the technology that's available at the retail units with our self-service kiosks and parcel lockers, as well as taking a look at our logistics ecosystem and the technology leveraged when planning and booking our trip management systems. So a lot of work has gone into the technology side of the house as well, which helps us deliver a better product ultimately. And then finally, for more forward-looking, a lot of our key initiatives for 23 and beyond are very similar to the initiatives we focused on in the prior years. It's really all about our network and transforming our network and optimizing our transportation, as well as, as I touched on, the technology and making sure that we're set to compete and better in the marketplace moving forward. Alrighty, so jumping in a little bit, overall for January 2024, we do have a 2% average price increase. And so, as I mentioned before, I'll go into some of the history before we cover the specifics. Okay, so this slide is something that I like to show because it paints a pretty good historical picture of how we've priced our market dominant or mail products in the past. And so you can see going back to January 2014, we have that big red bar there where our inflation rate was 1.7%. And then we got some additional authority to raise prices by 4.3%. Specifically related to the Great Recession. We had a large decline in mail volume at that time, and we were able to raise prices at about 6%. However, we did have to roll back that 4.3%, so that 4.3 didn't stay for the long term, and it was rolled back after a few years. And then after that point, from January 2014 all the way up to January 2021, we only had authority to raise prices with inflation. And so you can see generally during that time frame, we increased prices once a year in January, and it's capped at the inflation rate, which is the blue moving bar on this chart. However, things changed in August of 2021. So you'll see that big bar with the 6.8% right up at the top. And what happened there is that our regulator, they reviewed our rate structures and our ability to raise prices, and they determined that just raising prices to meet the inflation rate didn't set the Postal Service off on the best foot to maintain long-term financial stability. So what they determined is that in addition to inflation, we should be able to raise our prices directly associated with the declining mail volumes and the increasing delivery points that we deliver to every day, as well as those retirement health benefits that we have to pre-fund. And so that large 6.8 bar right there, that was the first time that we had additional price authority available to us to increase our prices. And you can see, a little unfortunately, at the exact same time that we got this new additional rate authority, inflation also skyrocketed. So you can see that red bar in July 2022 of 5.1%, which is directly associated with inflation. And so you can see, the bars of the price increases that were taken thereafter are 6.5% in total and 5.4 and 4.2. So a lot of that is driven by inflation and not necessarily the additional rate authorities granted by our regulator. And then finally, this is another chart that I like to show that paints a good historical picture associated with the volume patterns going back in time from 2007 up to 2023, which uses some forecasted figures. And the message that we try to get across using this slide is that we've highlighted economic events such as the Great Recession and COVID-19. And we can also see the dramatic declines in marketing mail letter-shaped volume and a little bit of a dip in marketing mail flat-shaped volume, while first-class mail, single piece, and pre-sort is generally a pretty smooth curve. And so what we can infer from this chart is that while changing price does impact demand for using the Postal Service to ship mail volume, it's not the only consideration or factor that plays into a customer's decision. We believe that economic conditions also directly impact how much mail volume that we receive during a given time frame. Alrighty, so jumping into some of the resources, and these will just be the general slides that we go over each price change. So as usual, we have our normal resource locations, Postal Explorer, where anyone can go on there and find prices, and then also our new prices in Excel and CSV formats, as well as the Federal Register and the DMM and IMM. Okay, so looking at our incentives for full service and seamless, there are no changes there to the prices there. The permit fee and the periodicals application fee is going up, 3.2% for the permits and 2.2% for the periodicals application fee. And then one thing we did want to highlight on this presentation in the incentive section is that we did introduce a new growth incentive for January 2024. And specifically, the purpose of this incentive is to incentivize mail volume growth over the prior calendar year of 2023. And so this is open for folks that mail first class pre-sort or marketing mail volume, excluding EDDM retail. And there are some volume requirements associated with the incentive program where each customer has to mail a minimum of 1 million pieces during the incentive period, in addition to mailing more than they did in 2023. And if all the program requirements are met for new volume, customers will be eligible for a 30% postage credit, and that credit will be issued quarterly. I'm not the primary contact on this growth incentive. However, there is a FAQ on postalese, and I believe there's going to be an industry-wide telecom, I believe tomorrow, to talk about some of the specifics associated with this program, and specifically focusing in on the registration, which should be happening this month. Okay, so getting into first class mail. So like I mentioned a little earlier, the average percent change for all of the mail classes is 2%. And so that's what we have for first class mail. And we increased the stamp price by 2 cents from 66 to 68 cents, which is an average of a 3% increase. And for the meters, we increased the price by 1 cent. And so what this means is that the gap between the stamps and the metered is increasing from 3 cents to 4 cents. For single piece cards, we did the same 2 cents there. And for flats, we also increased by 3%. And then we'll see the big change here on this chart is the non-machinable surcharge. For letters, this price hasn't changed in a little bit, so we've increased the price from 40 cents to 44 cents. And then we have the pre-sorted items outlined here, as well as the first class international outbound mail, where letters and cards are increasing from $1.50 to $1.55. And whenever we talk about the stamp price for first class mail, we always like to illustrate the relative value that the Postal Service offers versus the rest of the industrialized world. So we can see here the United States in orange is all the way at the bottom for USPS compared to the rest of the countries that charge quite a bit more for their postage for a letter. Okay, so now looking at the pre-sorted pieces for first class mail. Overall, most of these categories are below average, below the 2% average. The metered price went from 63 to 64 cents, which is the benchmark for a lot of our work shared mail categories. And we did widen the incentive to pre-sort to 5-digit from AADC letters. Then we're moving on into marketing mail. All right, so for marketing mail, again, we had the average of 2%. And something about marketing mail that I'll call out is that there are a few products in this category where their revenues fail to cover the costs for those products. So those include flats and carrier route and parcels. So since those products don't cover the costs associated with processing and delivering the mail, our regulator mandates that we increase the prices for those categories at least 2% above the class average. And so since the class average was 2%, we're mandated to increase the flats, carrier route, and parcels price by at least an additional 2% or 4% total. And so that's what we've done for the flats and carrier route. While for parcels, overall, we've had a pretty standard strategy for this product where we've been increasing the prices for these pieces significantly. So we're doing a 20% increase on these pieces for this price case. The DAL and DML, we've increased the DML by a half a cent from 9.5 to 10 cents while keeping the +1 price stable. Looking at the rate relationship, so these slides where we have the green and the blue text, what we're doing here is we're just outlining the price differentials between the different categories. And so for the marketing mail commercial letters, we didn't change any of the rate relationships between these products, so we didn't widen an incentive to sort in a particular way in this rate case. And then we have commercial flats. So we've highlighted one rate relationship here, which changed by about 1 cent. And so it's widened this incentive to pre-sort, and so it costs $12 more per 1,000 to sort to carrier route entered at DSCF. No, 12, or it's 1.2 cents. No, there we go. Okay. All right. So now we get into our containerization discounts. This is, relatively new set of discounts that have been put in place over the last few years. And the purpose of these discounts is to incentivize customers to prepare mail in efficient pallet containers and ingest it into the postal network so that the Postal Service can avoid costs associated with the transportation and sorting of that mail. And so in exchange to preparing the mail, meeting these specifications, we apply a discount associated with that. And so here we have a few types of discounts. So this is for flat shaped pieces on this slide. And so we have the delivery sort container discount, and then we also have the SCF pallet discount. And so when we talk about a difference of 22%, it's actually an increase in the discount. So the higher the percent here, the better for the customer. And so you can see that a lot of these percent differences are in the 20% range, which is good news for our customers. And then I think it was July 2023, we introduced the SCF container discount for letter-shaped marketing mail pieces. And so we did increase the discount for one rate category by 50%. Okay, and then there's one question in the chat, so I'll just go ahead and answer it now, which is, can we expect 2 price increases each year going forward? So I would say for the time being, yes. The forward guidance that we've provided to the industry is, the estimated rate increases for each 6-month period for both January and July. And until we have sufficient revenues to cover our overall costs, we will be taking advantage of the rate authority that's granted to us by our regulator. Okay, periodicals, again, a 2% average increase. You can see this is a little dramatic, the way it looks on this slide, where we have 1.6% for outside county and 7.3% for inside county. And so what's happening here is it kind of ties back to our regulations around how we price work shared products. And ultimately, there are some major rate categories which our regulator mandates that we increase the discounts associated with them by at least 20%. And subsequently, we increase the base rates associated with those so that we don't have an effective price decrease. This is due to the fact that periodicals as a class, and then both inside county and outside county, both fail to generate enough revenue to cover their costs. So we're pricing these products in order to make sure that we're increasing the overall revenue generated and the revenue per piece associated with these products. And then, so this is for the outside county. And so you can see we have the 2% average. We've increased the piece price for 2.3%, and then we've slightly adjusted one of the tray prices. And ultimately, the most efficient way to increase the revenue per piece and improve the cost coverage associated with this product is through the piece price. And so we targeted the price change for that. And then the box on the right-hand side, this is just a note about sack preparation that went into effect probably a year ago at this point or more. But this is just a reminder about the preparation for these containers for periodicals. Okay, so jumping into package services. Again, a 2% 4% class average. And ultimately, we increased the prices for media mail, library mail, and a very small increase on BPM flats for both single piece and pre-sorted categories. Overall, like I mentioned for marketing mail, media mail and library mail does not generate enough revenue to cover its costs, so we're mandated by our regulator to increase the price increase by at least 2% above the class average, which is 4%. And media mail, library mail is such a large product category that it takes up most of our rate authority. So we could not increase many other prices. Okay, special services. So special services, you're going to see something a little different where the class average is actually 2.2%. What happens is if we don't use all of our rate authority in a prior rate case, we do have the ability to roll it over and bank it and use it in a later price case as long as it's used within 5 years. So we did have some leftover rate authority from our last price case, the 2.2%. So we've taken advantage of it in this one. And you'll see the asterisk there for money orders. So money orders is another product where the revenues associated with it don't cover its costs. So we've increased that above the mandated to 4.2%. In addition, we increased PO boxes by 2% and generally everything else a little bit below the class average. With that, yeah, I'll just take any questions. Generally, this rate case, there's very little change happening as it relates to structure change. It's all pretty much just the same price cells and then just applying a price increase to those cells. So that's why this presentation went relatively speedy. So I'll take any questions.
I believe there's one more question that was added, and it says, has the price increase been approved yet?
It has not. Public comments went in yesterday, and I think that the commission, they always have 51 calendar days to review a price case, and so we anticipate a response by the end of this month.
Thank you, Fiona. We will wait a minute or so to see, or a little bit, to see if anybody else has any other questions. Okay. Fiona, there is another question. Any plan to submit price proposals sooner than next year?
So I would say that the normal cadence that we've been filing proposals will remain. I will say one recent improvement that we have made, that was made in the July case, is that we've started filing our promotions in our July price case filing instead of January. So you can expect to continue to see that cadence moving forward. But obviously, you know, the turnaround for each price case is pretty quick, and so I don't anticipate any change in the future.
Thank you for that information, Fiona. We'll wait just a second or two to see if there's any other questions. Well, it looks like you were very informative because there's not any other questions. So I want to remind everybody that this will be available for the attendees, or we will send a link on our websites for other people that were not able to attend, so that they may view the webinar. And Fiona, thank you so much for doing such a great job at presenting all the information for the 2024 January price increase.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
And with that, I believe that is it.
Yep. And then there's just some appendix slides in there if anyone wants to take a look for marketing mail nonprofit rates. Okay. We also include those.
If anybody has any questions, please visit our website at www.anchorcomputersoftware.com. or you can always email us at support@anchorcomputersoftware.com. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of the day.